Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here and welcome to another video. So today, EA have recently released these foot swap deal players. So these are all the players that EA recently released. This is part of their new content that they released recently. So from my understanding, and I don't know if this is exactly how it's going to work with EA's promo in general, from my understanding, some of these cards you can't actually get all these cards. The way that it actually works is that EA will provide you with 12 of these pink cards right here. So these pink cards that you see right here are the types of cards that you win from daily knockout tournaments, from doing objectives in the game, right? So they're going to release that whenever they release it. So there's not really a specific time frame of when they release these cards. But as you collect these cards, these are the cards that you trade towards these cards over here. Now, the thing that's a little bit underwhelming about the situation, about this whole entire thing, is that if they only give you 12 of these cards and Alexis Sánchez alone costs 11 of these cards, that means that you'll only be able to get Alexis Sánchez out of all of these players here. Now, if you want to use the 12, if you can get the 12 cards, depending on what the challenges and stuff are, if you get the 12 cards and you want to trade towards Wendell, Baldiao, and Jordan Henderson, you can actually do that, but know that you're going to be using 3, 3, and 3 on each of those 3 cards. So that means that you'll have 9 of your of these cards spent on these cards, and then you'll have maybe a few extra. I'm not sure if Werner, Cazorla, and Payet cost 3. I think they cost 4. I could be mistaken, but yeah, if you want to get Jordan Henderson, Baldiao, Wendell, you can't get someone like Alexis Sanchez. So it's a little bit underwhelming that EA did this because gameplay content-wise, I think it would have made more sense for EA to just make all the players available just through playing the game, right? And they could have came up with unique ways of getting these type of cards or just the color of the card to trade towards these cards. Like for instance, if you play like 100 drafts, you can get, or not 100 drafts is a lot, but if you play like a lot of drafts, you can get this pink card. If you win a certain amount of drafts, you get it quicker, or you have more of a chance of getting it. Or even if you play the draft, there's at least have like a 10 or 15 chance, or maybe even lower, you can make it a 5% chance of getting the player in the pack towards trading towards these guys here. Or do in-game accomplishments, whether it's scoring goals, assisting, keeping a clean sheet in the game. I think they could have done a lot with this SBC in general. There's so much gameplay content that could have been done with it, and I feel like it's a little bit underwhelming that if they only give you 12 versions of this Negredo card, that's pretty much all you can work with, right? You can't do anything else but get Alexis Sanchez with 11 or get Modrić with 7 of the... I think it's 7 with the Modrić and the Ibrahimovic. So if you get one of these guys, then you'll only be able to afford one of these guys because 7 and 3 would be 10, and then you would have 2 extra to maybe get those packs that they also offer as well. So I feel like it was a missed opportunity by EA to make it a little bit better, in my opinion. But I am going to be looking into the cards and what you can and can't do with the cards. I'm not going to necessarily say whether the cards are worth it or not, but it's in terms of what positioning you can put them in. Because I feel like when you actually look at the cards in the games, the only ones that are genuinely not worth getting is probably the Santi Cazorla and the Koke. Everything else, if you're a general FIFA player, everything else is very usable. But I feel like Santi Cazorla and Koke are just not very... Well, maybe Koke more than Santi Cazorla, because at least Koke has the physical, decent pace, shooting, passing, defending. But Cazorla is very based off of dribbling, shooting, and passing, which are stats you don't notice that much when you're in the midfield. But everybody else is usable in their own sense. Insigne has a center forward card, because so if you want to switch to a 4-1-2-2 and use him as a cam, you can actually do that, or you can put him as a center mid, cam, striker, whatever you want. You can switch him in the team. Alexis Sanchez is the card that I feel like everybody's going to get because of the fact that he's high work rates with a striker card. So again, you can make him your cam or your striker, your center mid. With high work rates, he wouldn't be a bad center mid. No defensive stats, but attacking wise, he would be all right. But in general, none of these cards are really that meta, right? Like some of these cards, you can use them and they'll be decent in your squad. Like if you look at Werner, 94 pace, 86 dribbling, 85 shooting, 75 passing. I'm not sure if they have all the specific stats yet. I'm not going to check Footbin because I think that their pricing is a little bit off in general. So I'm going to go ahead and check Timo Werner. So Timo Werner has the man of the match card, which is better. So that's actually interesting. So if I go to Footbin's website and I search up which one it is it this one? I think it's this one, right? So if I search up his card, right, we've got a player that has, well, I guess I could tell you guys if the players are worth it or not, right? So this guy has 95 acceleration, 94 sprint speed, already off to a great start, 510 work rates, while being 84 agility and 81 balance isn't actually that bad. Now, his shot power is crappy, which you will notice in game at times. With 79 shot power, it's not that great in those specific opportunities, right? Because the finishing is so weird in this game, but 92 finishing with 75 composure isn't the greatest. The 75 composure in those tight spaces, and even when he's not in a tight space, because the finishing is very weird in this game, he's not going to finish consistently even though he has 92 finishing, right? Because those two things go hand in hand with each other. Like, I've used a lot of players that have good finishing but have really bad composure, like Timo Werner's card right now, and they usually just don't play that well because they're missing the composure part, which, again, it's a stat that I always mentioned to people before. It's a stat that I personally don't like that much, but everyone will think differently when it comes to that. The next card we have here is the Alexis, well, not next card, but I just went to Timo Werner randomly. Alexis Sánchez, if we look at his card, he has all the right things to be a good card. Now, the reason why I absolutely hate Alexis Sánchez in this game is because of height, right? Now, there's going to be a lot of people that when they use this card, they'll enjoy him. They'll think that he's a good player, right? Because in general, he has decent stats. But I think for me, right, when a player is this short and their sprint speed is that bad, it's not bad. It's really hard to explain because I know people are going to be like, oh, but Inception, previous videos, it's not about that. It's like certain cards you can just tell are bad because of certain stats that make them bad, or height, or whatever it is. Like Alexis Sánchez, the reason why he's poor is because of his height. If Alexis Sánchez was at least 5'10", he would actually be a really solid card, except for the sprint speed part, because the sprint speed part is always noticeable, right? The acceleration with him is good. So if you're accelerating with him and you have 90 acceleration, 192 agility, and 82 bounce, dribbling on the ball, he's going to be very nice, depending on your gameplay, right? But 85 sprint speed is annoying to have with this card. Like, the sprint speed being 85 and the height being 5'7" together really annoys me for some reason with this card. I don't know what it is, but I just really don't like Alexis Sánchez at all in FIFA. It's the same thing with like players like Aguero because of height. I don't like Mane, and I'm going to search up Mane's card right now and show you why I don't like his card. I absolutely love Mane in real life, but in this game, I just don't like him at all. And the reason being is because of this. I'll show you guys right now. So if I go to Mane's card, right, it's always, there's no such thing as like a card stat that is like, everything just makes sense in FIFA. You know what I mean? Everything makes sense. The lack of weak foot is so noticeable on the Mane, it's ridiculous how noticeable it is, right? His on the ball, he's fantastic. I love using him when he's on the ball. But not having good long shots makes him incredibly linear to having to be inside the box at all times. So if you're outside the box and there's a really easy finesse shot that you want to take, he will not be able to take a good long shot finesse shot. Because as you can see, he doesn't actually have the finesse shot trait, and it's very noticeable that he doesn't have it. One card that I actually want to check right now is the Ricardo Quaresma card. So if I actually check out his traits, see, the finesse shot trait is so noticeable in this game. When people say that traits don't do anything, they do, man. Because look, I tried taking finesse shots with this Quaresma card, and right off the bat, when he took the shot, I noticed that, like, we're talking about that shot when you're outside the 18-yard box, you position yourself at a 90-degree angle, and then you try to finesse it, right? From outside the 18-yard box. He's not good at doing it. Although he has long shot the long shot taker, he's not good at doing that specific finesse shot, although his long shots are 91. So 100% the traits do something, because I'll tell you guys this right now. If you look at Lionel Messi's card and you look at his traits, he has finesse shot and he also has a long shot taker. So when they have those two traits together, they take really, really nice 90-degree angle finesse shots. I'll show you someone right now too, right? If we search up Ronaldo's card and I search up his traits, look at how he doesn't have the finesse shot trait. That is very noticeable in game, that in the 80 in the 90-degree angle, it's the way that they take the shot that isn't as good as someone like Lionel Messi. It's very noticeable in the game when they don't actually have the trait. I'm trying to think of other players that probably have it. I'm assuming that Maradona may have it, because when I used his prime version of his card, he actually took good ones. See, he actually has a finesse shot trait. So when people say that it's not noticeable, it's incredibly noticeable when someone has that trait, when they're outside of the 18-yard box trying to take a finesse shot into the back of the net, right? I'm going to even search up Mane's card right now too. If you look at his traits, he also doesn't have it. And I've tried doing that. When you don't have long shots and you don't have that finesse shot trait, you just take really, really bad shots. Now, other cards, I honestly can't think of on the spot that are actually good at doing the finesse shots outside the 18-yard box. But that's something that I definitely noticed in the game as I was playing, that certain players take better long-range finesse shots than other players because of that specific trait, or traits together with the long shot trait, right? So it's just food for thought right there, man. Like, I really, really noticed it when I was using the players, right? Luka Modrić looks like a card that's just, I mean, he's all right, right? He doesn't have, he has 75 defending, but his defensive stats in general aren't that great. But he's a very usable card in FIFA, right? That's the thing about this card. It's a usable card. 85 composure with 76 finishing isn't terrible, especially if you give him a hunter card or a shadow card. I would prefer, if you guys were using him as a center mid, it would be best to use him with a shadow card. But the thing about this Luka Modrić card is that it's not even remotely close to the Team of the Year version, which makes sense, obviously, but it just doesn't play that great in this game because of the way that the meta works. Modrić is probably the best midfielder in the world right now, but in FIFA, he's far from it. Like, I would prefer to use Ander or Herrera over Modrić, just because Ander Herrera has somewhat of defensive stats and he's got the high work rates, whereas Modrić is more about the dribbling and the passing than anything else. Even his shooting is a little bit lackluster at times, right? It's not very consistent, it's not ideal to have, but it's a fun card to use. And again, in this video, I'll probably show you guys some squad builds that you can do. But yeah, Modrić, again, a very, it's a type of card that it's like, if you want to do him, you can, but is it worth it? I wouldn't necessarily say it is. Ibrahimovic's card, I think that may or may not be his best version of his card. It is the best version of his card. So, I mean, this is the type of card where if you're a fan of Ibrahimovic in real life, you get this card. There's no, like, there's not really any ifs, ands, or buts to it. Like, he has great shooting stats, he has great passing stats, he's got great dribbling stats, except for the balance. The balance is incredibly noticeable on the card. But his pace is really slow, but if you use Ibrahimovic in a certain way, it's funny with his cards because he kind of has stats that make up for it. His finishing is also very, very good in this game. He might have some traits here and there that actually makes him a better card. I'm actually going to go see on Footbin if he has any specific traits that make his finishing better. Because I feel like, I wish we knew exactly what the traits and all these things did with the cards, but they don't really actually tell you, right? Like right now I can't see the traits and specialities, but if I go search up the 89, it'll probably tell me some, and it doesn't even have any. Maybe on Footbin it doesn't show any. I don't know if, I guess Ibrahimovic doesn't have any. I'm not really sure. I guess because he's medium-low work rates, I'm not really sure why he doesn't have any stats. But yeah, the card's pretty decent, right? It looks like a card that's going to finish decently. Composure 95 is a big thing. Aggression and strength is a big thing because of the pace being really low. So if you're using this card, it would actually be more ideal to use him in like a formation like the 4-3-3 false 9, right? Where he's playing as a center forward and he can lay the ball off to other players, because 89 short passing and 80 long passing is pretty good. The long shots are very effective in this game. I hate them, but whatever. So he's very good at those as well. So all of those things take into effect as well. Next card we have here is Carlos Tevez. So some people have been very iffy on Carlos Tevez, whether or not they should or shouldn't get him. Again, it's very based off of whether or not you like this card in real life to get him in the game. Because in the game, I actually feel like he'll play decently. He might play very similar to someone like Rooney, but maybe a little bit more aggressively, right? On the ball, he's not terrible because he is 5'7" with 86 acceleration, 81 sprint speed, 81 agility, and 80 balance. So it's actually quite nice to have in general. But everything else, you know, it's a fun card to use, right? I don't know if he has any traits in specific. I don't know why I keep hopping between Footbin and Thing. But if I search up Tevez's card in general, maybe it'll actually show some traits. So it doesn't show traits on these cards either. Maybe because he's a new card, it doesn't add up with him. So let me just check to see his regular, if they did anything with that. So his regular card has the shooting, the finesse shot, and the long shot taker. So those finesse shots with him will be very good. So if we search up, if they do the same thing with the SBC, of course, if they have 95 shot power, 78 long shots. 78 long shots is low, but his finesse shots from outside the 18-yard box are going to be way more consistent than people that just don't have that trait in general. So definitely look into that for sure. Let me see if Footbin actually has the cards on the front, and I don't see them anywhere. Podcasts. Yeah, they might be here, and I'm just like completely blind. But with Forehead, I wish their stats were upgraded a little bit better, because going through their site is, I would say it's a little bit better to navigate through it. So Insigne is an interesting card, right? So Insigne is another card that if you pick him up, he's probably going to get a team of the season. Let's be honest, like he'll probably get a team of the season. But the thing about this card is at the 5-4. So for me personally, my mentality is a big no-no right there with Insigne. But in general, right, I'm talking about it from a point of view of someone that actually likes using these types of cards, or is okay with the height being like that. Because I've used Insigne's, I think it just is rare gold, so 85 or 87, either or. I never use his inform card. I usually get him in the draft, but I actually never use him, right? So with Insigne's card, whether you're getting his inform or the rare gold cards, the dribbling in general is pretty decent. His sprint speed is quite low. This is his highest version of his card, and his sprint speed is still kind of low. So that kind of plays into effect with a lot of things. His finishing is very inconsistent, because if you're using him as a center forward and he has 77 shot power with 80 finishing, he's not going to be very consistent with his weak foot, because it is 3-star weak foot, right? So got to be very careful with those ones as well. On the ball, not too bad. 99 agility, 96 of balance is obviously amazing, but it better be like these stats with 5'4" height, right? And then the composure being 80 is quite nice as well. So he'll be a little speed demon, but he'll be lacking in a lot of different areas, right? The next player we have here is Coca. So with Coca's card, like I was mentioning earlier, it's a usable card in the sense without defensive stats, right? So because he doesn't have many defensive stats, as a midfielder in FIFA in general, it's not really ideal to use someone like Coca as a midfielder, but I would say in terms of everything else, it's definitely worth trying out. He's got dribbling stats. He's not crazy in the pace, because he does have 76 acceleration with 72 sprint speed, but when he's on the ball, he wouldn't be that bad. His finishing is 77, which isn't terrible, but not necessarily ideal. These are the type of cards, like, you can't be perfect in FIFA. Like, if you want to try out different cards, so be it, right? But when you're using these cards, you will 100% notice a difference between whether or not they will play good or bad. The finishing is going to annoy you, the pace is going to annoy you, and the lack of defensive stats are going to annoy you every single time. But if you want to have fun with a card like Coca, then it's definitely worth trying him out and seeing how he plays, right? This is not where I'm supposed to go. Next card we got here is Dimitri Payet. So Dimitri Payet, a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people are actually going to do this card just because it's Payet, French cam, who actually has got some decent stats, right? He'll probably get a team of the season too, because he's doing pretty well this season as well. But 79 shooting, 79 finishing with 87 composure isn't bad at all. If you give him a hunter card, his finishing will be improved by a little bit, but the composure being high is definitely important. I'm pretty certain, because of in real life, right? I feel like Dimitri Payet would have the finesse shot trait on his card. So I'm going to go ahead and search his rare gold card over here. So his traits, he doesn't even have the finesse shot trait. So that's actually interesting. So his shooting will be a little bit inconsistent in terms of the long shots being 87 because of the lack of finesse shots. But if you take regular power shots, he'll score them RNG-wise. Like it'll either go in or it won't go in, right? On the ball, he'll play quite decently. His acceleration is high, so if you want to accelerate into space, he'll be okay. With 80 agility and 82 balance while being 5'9" isn't bad. Again, none of these cards in this SBC, for me personally, completely meta-wise, FUT Champs related, is not worth it. But I'm saying it in a point of view where if you guys just want to have fun with the game and just use different types of cards, then again, it's definitely worth trying out and seeing exactly what you like, because not everybody's the same. My way of thinking with FIFA is incredibly meta-oriented, so everybody's going to be different with these types of situations, right? So Dimitri Payet, a usable card if you want to have fun with his shooting pace. shooting, passing, and dribbling, then he'll definitely do the job for you, especially since he's from League One. Like, you can kind of do some cool links with that, right? You can put Dimitri Payet as a cam, Luis Gustavo as a CDM, and then just have fun with that, right? Cazorla's card. The reason why Cazorla's card would be poor right off the bat, lack of defensive stats. His pace is way too low. It's far, far too low to move left and right properly. But on the ball, he's actually quite nice. His finishing is decent with a 5-star weak foot and 4-star skill moves is not bad. His dribbling in general is actually quite nice to use. But you do notice the lack of acceleration and sprint speed when you're trying to dribble with him. High-low work rates is a very weird custom tactic or work rates to have in general for him because he's going to play very oddly, but 91 composure with decent shooting stats is definitely not bad to try out if you guys want to get this card. Jordan Henderson, CDM card with pretty good stats in all fairness. His defensive stats are okay. He has 82 interceptions with 83 standing tackle and 79 sliding tackle, so defensive stat-wise, he's actually quite decent. The high work rates kind of makes it so that, like, for me personally, I don't know if I'd want to use him as one of my center mids in general. But I mean, not the high work rates part, but his stats don't really suggest good enough to use as a center mid. But he would be one of the cards that I would get because there aren't many good EPL players that actually has really good all-round stats like this Jordan Henderson. Like, this card has potential to play better than a regular Herrera. So if that's ever a possibility and you have English and Liverpool links, you can do some pretty cool teams with that, right? Interceptions being 82 is good. His sliding tackle and sliding tackle is good. His marking 75 is okay, right? I wish I knew what the difference with marking was, like when a player has marking of 75 or 80 or whatever, right? I wish it would be nice to know the difference. His stamina is good, so he'll run up and down the pitch really nicely with high work rates, so definitely worth trying out there as well. Baldiao is a card that, again, would be one of the cards that's worth getting because of the fact that he's from League One. He's got pace, shooting, and dribbling. His dribbling is a little bit poor because of the balance, and you do notice that 100% on his card. 100% you will notice the balance. But in general, his pace is very good. His finishing isn't terrible with a 4-star weak foot. Not necessarily ideal with the long shots in general, but his finishing and shot power is quite nice with 84 positioning, 80 composure. So he'll be kind of like... He'll be very similar to someone like Anthony Martial, in my opinion. So definitely worth picking up this card because, hey, he's a striker card. You can make him a cam before the game starts, so just so you can have a link with like someone like Fabinho or someone like Neymar, right? Because if you put Fabinho and Neymar and Baldiao on the same team, where Neymar is your left forward, Neymar gets full chemistry because he gets that one chemistry link with a Monaco player, and then he gets that other chemistry link with a Brazil League One player, right? So definitely worth checking out the Keita Balde card. Wendell is another card as well. So Brazilian guy from the Bundesliga. So there's a lot that you can work with that. Defensive stats, he's not terrible. His heading is pretty terrible. So you will notice that at all times with his card, right? But defensively, he's all right, man. With the fullbacks, it's more about the pace and decent defending and physical than anything, right? If someone like Cancelo, right, from Inter Milan is actually a good fullback because he's got the pace, defending, and physical stats in general, right? That's what makes these cards really good or really bad. So definitely worth checking out the Wendell card as well. He looks like a card that's worth doing because it's nice to have someone that is Brazilian as a Bundesliga player because there's so much more that you can do with the chemistry links, especially putting, Fabinho as a left center mid and put Neymar up top and then put someone else as a CDM and get all those chemistry links that you need, right? So there's a lot more that you can do with squads if you put someone that is from the Bundesliga and from Brazil so that you can link that around your team. Other players we have here, I don't think there's anybody else. I think Negretto's the only one. These cards are completely irrelevant because these cards are giving you is to trade towards these cards right here. So whether any of these cards are worth it, in my mind, the way that I see FIFA, I don't care to have any of these cards. But gameplay wise, it's fun to get them regardless, right? It just sucks that you can't get all of them. Like if EA were so stingy about it, like they could have just made it that, if you get these cards in general, you can't really use them towards SBC. I wouldn't mind that, right? Because collecting cards through gameplay is what makes the game fun. Obviously with good gameplay, which, but content is very important for gameplay when you play it so that you can enjoy yourself a little bit more. So That's my opinion about this SBC. I just think that it could have definitely been better, but I mean, it is what it is. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. If you guys did, please drop a thumbs up on it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.